Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome to the Mets PostGame Show. I am running solo tonight, or today, or tonight, to this afternoon, whatever. Man, that was so disappointing. After 2 days off, a sweep of the Nationals, we get Mets baseball back in our lives over the last couple of off days. And the Mets, unfortunately, lose because of one inning. Let's be honest about that. They had opportunities early in the game to score multiple runs. You have Marte in the fourth, that 95% catch rate of that fly ball has to be caught. That ends the inning, and it's a tie ball game at that point, and 5 more runs came in with 2 outs. Now, you can blame Minaya a little bit because he couldn't close the deal and, stop the bleeding at all, but Marte's got to make that catch, guys. Marte has to make that catch. And I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if he's not seeing the ball well, but this has been a problem all year. Marte is either picking up the ball badly off the bat or doesn't have that quick first step anymore. And when he makes one wrong misstep, like it looks like in that play, the replays that Fox actually shows of that pop-up, it looked like he took a step back before charging into that ball. So I don't know if it's his bad reaction time, not reading it off the bat, or he's injured and he's playing. I don't know. And what's unfortunate about that is that you can't DH him because you're going to be sitting on Martinez. So, and he's hitting right now, Marte. He's one of the better bats in the lineup right now. So it's kind of a catch me 20, it's like a catch 22 here. Like, I would like to DH him, not put him in the field, but then you don't have Martinez in the game as DH. Martinez wasn't good today. Couple of strikeouts from him, and he didn't come through on a couple of spots either. Brandon Nimmo had second and third with nobody out. Didn't get the job done either. If it wasn't for Lindor's good base running on the ground ball from Martinez, it would have been 1 run for the Mets. So it was a bad performance, but I can't call it a bad performance, even though it's kind of what they've been for the majority of the year. They could not score runners on base and runners in scoring position. They left over 10 men left on base. They left 6 men in scoring position. You're not winning ball games like that, especially with a team like the Phillies, who's been playing really well all season. And if you notice, they get the big hits when their guys are on base, right? That 2 out, 5 runs with 2 outs, that's a killer. I don't care who you are. You can be Murderers Row. You can be the best team ever. If you get 5 runs scored on you with 2 outs, it takes the sails, the wind out of your sails. Like, let's be honest, when they scored them 5 runs with 2 outs, it was, over. And, the Mets had an opportunity again, second and third, 1 out. Or nobody, they had an opportunity to score some runs there, put a 2 or 3 runs on the board, get back into this ball game. They almost tried to do it in the ninth again, but they didn't do it once again. So, unfortunately, they didn't play a good game, right? There's no excuses, right? I don't want to hear about jet lag. Last time I checked, Philly actually flew to London as well. So let's not act like it's jet lag, right? The Phillies over the last month have traveled the most out of any team in baseball the furthest, so they should be more jet lagged than the Mets. So that's not an excuse. Fact is, they didn't come through when it mattered, right? You got Pete Alonso 2 for 4, you got Lindor 2 for 4. The bottom of the order, Iglesias and Torrens, right? Got a couple of hits there, getting the job done, getting on base for the top of the order, right? The top of the order didn't come through enough. Let's be honest about that. And it goes from 1 through 4, right? You can't just expect Lindor and Alonso to do it when you got Nimmo. And I'm going to continue to say it about Nimmo. And, I love Chris, and Hector. And they really wanted Nimmo in that 3 spot. He just does not belong there. I'm sorry. He just doesn't. I feel like he comes up in too many big opportunities in the 3-hole and does not come through. Right? It's just not a position. It's not a spot in the lineup for him. It's killing this team, especially with Lindor and Alonso playing much better. You gotta have somebody in the 3-hole that's doing the job. You know what? I would even want to see. I'd rather see Vientos in the 3-hole. At least he provides a little bit more power. I feel like he has a little bit more of that it factor. I would put Vientos in the 3-hole. I can't see Nimmo there anymore. I don't care where you bat Nimmo. You want to bat him 9th? You want to bat him 5th? I don't care. Put him back. You can't put him back in leadoff because Lindor is great right now. So it is what it is, right? Unfortunately, right, it was 1 inning for the Mets, right? The Phillies didn't do nothing else the rest of the game. They didn't put a lot of hits together either, except for that 1 inning. They got that 6-run thing. Kudos to them for getting that 5 runs in with 2 outs. It's a killer. So, well, you know what? Manaea wasn't good, right? He looked good for the first 3 innings, and then the 4th inning came around. But let's be honest about this, right? Manaea has to pick up Marte in that spot. Like, Manaea's got to get out of the inning somehow, some way. Can't let it get out of control like it did. But if Marte catches that ball, the Mets are going to the bottom of the 4th in a tie game, not down by 5. So, you can start this whole situation with Marte not catching that ball. That's a fly ball that you got to catch. I'm sorry. Dive for the ball. I'm sorry. Like, make an attempt, please. Like, I don't know what it is with Marte. If it's reading the ball, not reading the ball off the bat, his first step is not quick enough. He's hurt. I don't care what it is. Don't care what it is. Figure something out, because here's the problem right now. Marte's bat is doing extremely well right now. It's hard to take him out of the lineup. But again, you can't DH him. So what do you do with him? You're going to leave a hot bat on the bench for Tyrone Taylor? Now, it'll help you defensively. And in a game like this, yeah, it would have been nice to have Tyrone Taylor out there to make that catch, and this could have been a whole different ballgame. I mean, the Mets didn't score really after that anyway, but who knows? The Phillies didn't either. They got an extra run, but it could have been a 2-2 ballgame going into extra innings in London. So it's a situation where Mendoza wants the offense in this lineup, right? Everybody talks about the offense. Oh, don't worry about the defense. You got to get the bats in there and going and everything like that. No, because there's too many times, specifically this year, the Mets defense has cost you games. You can't have that happen. You can't have a situation where you put your pitcher in a situation where he thought he was out of the inning. We've seen this. Look, if you watch baseball all your life, you've seen this 100 times, right? A pitcher thought that a fielder should have got to a ball, got an out, and ended the inning. And what happens? It starts to accumulate runs. It's just how it goes. Yeah, easy. Yeah, that's true too. I agree with that with Nimmo trying to get that ball in foul territory. But yeah, listen, I don't want to kill Marte in a situation that, but like, somebody on X put like, oh, why, Mendoza's a clown because he put Marte in right field. Well, what are you supposed to do? Your lineup has been good offensively. Marte, besides Lindor and Alonso, has been the hottest on this team over the last week, 2 weeks. What are you supposed to do? You can't bench Marte for Tyrone Taylor just for defensive purposes when your lineup has been scoring runs. Like, you just can't do that. So it's unfortunate, but it's going to be a very interesting game tomorrow. Again, a lot of these look. Technically, the Phillies scored a decent amount of runs, but usually it's a high scoring game in these London games, right? The Mets had opportunities. Again, they had over 10 men left on base, 6 men in scoring position. You got to be better than that. Sorry. I'm sorry. You know what? Martinez came up with men on. Nimmo came up multiple times with men on. And Lindor and Alonso. But again, I mean, Pete Alonso got a couple of hits. Lindor got it started early on. But again, like Martinez was 0 for 4. Marte was 2 for 4 with a double and RBI. That's nice. But then you have Vientos 0 for 4. Again, he can have a bad game. He's been pretty damn good, right? Bader, who is a guy who usually don't go over in a game usually. And look at Iglesias and Torrens. 2 for 4, 1 for 3. Like, it sucks. It really does suck. Yeah, Mike, I agree with you, right? Martinez has to come up. Look, we got Martinez for a purpose, right? Yeah, we got him very, very late into the offseason, into spring training, late in spring training. But he's got to come through in those spots. I'm sorry, he does. Yeah, CP, I agree. Look, Chris, I agree with you, man. And like, it's unfortunate because it's like I don't want Marte out there, but if you lose that bat, you're losing a bat behind Lindor, Alonso, and Nimmo. You're losing that bat now. And then, Tyron Taylor is solid defensively. He would have made that catch. But what if the Mets still left runners on base? We're not talking. We would have been talking about why Marte isn't in the lineup and get to provide that offense. So Mendoza's in a tough situation here because of JD Martinez. You can't DH Marte, so it's annoying. Yeah, easy. I don't know. They must have got one of them FIFA refs to do the game for behind home plate. Like I thought he was probably refereeing a West Ham game in London stadiums. Like, geez. Sorry guys, I'm just looking at the comments. Yeah, Ted, I know. Look, it ended up being terrible timing, right? I was in the moving process. It came up. I wasn't supposed to move until later in the summer, and I ended up moving in April. So I used a lot of my vacation time. I took a month off from work to make the move down south and get situated. So I used majority of my vacation time. I just started in a new place, even though same company. I can't just ask for a vacation. Not even a month into the new company, the new area I'm at. So I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm going to London. I'll see you guys in a week. I wanted to listen. I had tickets to both games. I sold them to a couple of Met fans I knew going there that was going. They kind of were going last minute and they were worried about tickets. I told them I got them. If they're going to go, let me know. I didn't charge them or anything like that because, look, I already paid for everything. Like, luckily, I did get a refundable package, flight, and hotel. So I didn't lose money on that. But, yeah, I would have loved to have been there. London's cool, I guess. I mean, I would have probably went a little bit more travel around Europe with the Euro Trail and everything like that. But yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't go. It is what it is. I would have been with a lot of the people that I always go to games with on the road and at home, but I'm here with the post game. So easy. Yeah. There's definitely more Philly fans than Met fans. But I mean, look at the situation, right? If the Mets would have went in London in 2022, there would have been more Mets fans than Philly fans. It's just a fact. Because in June, the Phillies were terrible in 2022, and the Mets were one of the best teams in baseball in 2022 in June, right? So, it's a dynamic, right? The Mets are, well under 500. The Phillies are the best team in baseball, record-wise, right? So what are you gonna do, right? It is what it is. Again, the Mets fans did show up. But again, you get when a team is better, you're gonna get the fan base buy in a little bit more, right? A lot of people ain't gonna go to another country, especially across the pond to Europe, another continent, to see a baseball game with their team not playing well. Like it's kind of hard to deal with that. So it is what it is. Mike, yeah, but see, we talk about with Stewart out and right or Taylor, yeah, but see, that doesn't matter though, because again, what are you gonna do? Bench Marte? You can't bench Marte, who was one of the better hitters in your lineup over the last week and over the last 2 weeks. You just can't do that. Like, yeah, it sucks that he should have caught that ball in right field, but the Mets didn't score anyway. So, who knows? So, I don't know. Like, Marte got one of the RBIs in the game. So if he wasn't in the ball game, would Tyrone Taylor or DJ Stewart playing right field would have got that hit? Probably not. Most likely, maybe, but we don't know. Right? We can't be Monday morning quarterback and look at the results and say, well, if this happened, if he did this, if you do that, you could do that to every single game. Oh no, well, you're gonna blame Marte for this loss, absolutely. But we also would have had only one run in the ball game if it wasn't for Marte, right? Marte went 2 for 4 today, right? You can't just ignore what he's doing with the bat right now. Yes, he hurt us in the field, but again, if he would have been on the bench, you would have a Tyrone Taylor and DJ Stewart that's not a better hitter than him. Yes, more better defensively, technically, more Tyrone Taylor than DJ Stewart. But again, did it affect the game? Absolutely. It probably was the reason why we lost. But you can also come back and blame Manaea, who after that ball fell in, it was only 2-1. He gave up 3 extra runs there. It's gonna be 4 extra runs there. So, you can blame Manaea in that aspect as well. Like, yeah, this has been Marte all season with the field in a situation. So it's a problem, but when your lineup is doing well, you're going to neglect defense a little bit for the offense. It's the way baseball goes now. I'm sorry, there was a ton of Met fans that did not care about defense at all. All I heard throughout the offseason, throughout spring training, throughout early parts of the season, the Mets aren't hitting. I don't care who's playing, put in the lineup. I don't care if they can't play right field or this or that. Yet, the Mets have been affected by more games defensively than they have offensively. Well, Mike, I agree. But again, the Mets also only scored 2 runs. If it wasn't for the 6-run inning, yeah, they would have had the 1 run with the Harper home run, but they also scored 2 runs as well. So the Mets could have still lost this game 3-2, and we wouldn't be talking about Marte. We'd be talking about the lineup that didn't get clutch hits in situations where they had 6 runners in scoring position that did not score out of the 8, and they left over 10 men left on base. That's the problem too, right? They had multiple opportunities to come back into this ball game, right? They scored 6 runs in the 4th inning, right? You had the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th before the Mets tried to do something in the 9th. So they had innings where they had runners on base, a couple in scoring position, and men left on base that they could have done the job as well. Again, this is a situation where the Phillies score runs. You can't score 2 runs and not blame the lineup at all. Like, they had opportunities, right? Brandon Nimmo had 2nd and 3rd with nobody out. He swung at ball 4. It was a terrible pitch. Nimmo has done that way too often. Sorry. Like, Nimmo is killing the top of the lineup. Like, I'm sorry to say, Nimmo has, again, with the Nimmo situation, right? Because Lindor and Alonso was so garbage to start the season, the Mets had to make a change in the lineup. And unfortunately, the Mets thought, well, Nimmo's been our best RBI guy, our best hitter. Let's put him in the 3-hole, which is a big RBI spot and a big run-producing spot, and let's move Lindor to leadoff, where he has been mostly successful in his career, and Pete Alonso at number 2, and change up the dynamic a little bit, and Martinez 4th, right? It got 2 guys going, but it also affected Nimmo to the point where he's not even the same player he was in April. Like, he's a totally different player. He's going up there to try to be a run producer. He is not that. I'm sorry to say. Like, Chris Hector, I know you want a Nimmo in a 3-hole, but he is not a 3-hitter. He is not a run producer. I'm sorry. A 75 RBI guy is not a run producer, right? Marte is a 75 RBI guy. Do you want him in a 3-hole? No. I'm sorry. You got to get him out of there. If you want to put up Mark Vientos, who has more power, is a guy that should be a run producer, you want to put him in there? Absolutely. If you want to put JD Martinez in a 3-hole and mess around with the 4 spot with Vientos or, whoever else you want to put in that 4 spot, I do that. But Nimmo's got to get out of the 3-hole. He's not a run producer, right? I would even put Nimmo number 2 and move Alonso number 3. I think Alonso would be fine going back to 3. I think he'd be okay with that. Right, and it might help Nimmo having a little protection behind him with Pete Alonso. So I would move Nimmo to this 2-hole just to change it up a little bit, where I think Nimmo will be more successful because Francisco Lindor is dangerous on the base path. He can steal bases. Nimmo, his best asset is working the count, letting the pitcher throw a lot of pitches, taking a few pitches to let Lindor steal. Nimmo's the perfect number 2 hitter. He works the count well. He's a guy that can give Lindor opportunities to steal bases when he gets on base, right? You took away Nimmo's best asset and tell him to not do that in the 3-hole because you can't take 100 pitches and work the count as much because you're trying to be a run producer. You can do that, but you're not helping the situation by walking there. I'm sorry. You're in a 3-hole to be a run producer, and I feel like he's putting more emphasis on being that run producer that he's not, and it's causing him to swing at a lot of pitches out of the zone that Nimmo is not accustomed to doing. He is not a guy that should be striking out this much. And why is that? Because he's trying to produce runs in a run-producing part of the lineup where he is not that type of hitter. That's the issue. The problem is Nimmo was the best hitter on the team in April, but that's a detriment to the other guys not doing the job. So because Nimmo, you wanted to put in the 3-hole because he had the most RBIs on the team, it just was the other guys were bad. So again, Nimmo is just not that guy. It's just not. And I'm going to continue to say it until they move him. Put him in the 2-hole. Move Alonso to 3, he'll be fine. Right? Lindor is a tough one to move from the leadoff spot, right? That annoys me a little bit about Lindor because I want him batting 3 because I'm the typical guy where I want one of your better hitters to be number 3 and your power hitter RBI guy number 4. So your 3 and 4 guys are your biggest run producers, right? But Lindor has shown something a lot different in the leadoff spot, right? Taking a lot more pitches, putting quality at bats on the left-hand side and the right-hand side of the batter's box, stealing bases. So he's been more dynamic. So it's hard to move him there, right? It would be silly to move Lindor, right? But I think Nimmo will be fine in the 2-hole because I think he's more of that type of hitter. A guy that, hey, I don't need to be that run-producing guy. I got guys behind me that can do that job. Because Pete Alonso and Martinez in 3 and 4 scares a pitcher a little bit more than Nimmo Martinez. I'm sorry, it does. Nimmo doesn't scare me. If you're a pitcher on the mound, what are you scared of? Okay, Nimmo, you want to take a walk? Great. But when you got guys on base in scoring position, I don't have no confidence that Nimmo's going to get the job done in that 3-hole. Not because Nimmo isn't a good player. He really is. He's become a hell of a lot better player offensively and that I've even thought. But he's not that guy. I know why they did it, but it's a failed experiment. It's an experiment. This is not set in stone. Change it. They won't change it in this London series because, well, you're not, because it's a 2-game series. And, you're going to see Jeff McNeil in the lineup tomorrow, who hasn't played in a week. That's going to be very interesting. So I'm assuming Iglesias is going to get replaced by McNeil, which annoys me a little bit because Iglesias has been playing well. But they can't lose McNeil to the wind here because if you're really going to try to trade him, and there was a report today that the Mariners are still interested in Jeff McNeil, you got to show something, right? You can't pay McNeil's contract or majority of it, trade him to the Mariners for a bag of balls and a bag of peanuts. You can't do that. Like why would you do that? Well, Patrick, I think Nimmo can because he's a guy. Well, you got to remember, Jeff McNeil was the leadoff hitter prior to Nimmo being the leadoff hitter. Remember, if you go back when McNeil came up, Nimmo was batting second and McNeil was leading off, right? And then they switched it around at some point. But It's all right, Junior. But again, I don't think Nimmo is right in that 3-hole. He was in the 3-hole again. This is not Nimmo's fault going to the 3-hole because the Mets really didn't have another choice. Who had the most RBIs? Who was the best hitter on the team when they made this lineup switch? It was Nimmo. But again, you're putting a guy, you're telling a guy to do something he never done in his career, in his 7 years of his career, and put him in that spot when Nimmo's never had more than 76 RBIs, 80. Like that's not. I don't want an 80 RBI guy in the 3-hole. That doesn't work for me because an 80 RBI guy is a solid player and a quote unquote above average run producer, but that's a guy that's batting 2, maybe 5th or 6th, and that's good. But again, not in that situation. I just don't believe that Nimmo's that guy. Carlos, I'm not gonna lie. I started when the Mets started to hit a little bit in the 9th. I'm like, they've done this to Philly before, So again, I know everybody probably thought about that a little bit, but it is what it is. You can't do nothing about it. This is only going to be about a half-hour show, guys. There's not much to talk about except the offense did not do the job today, right? Sean Manaea was looking good through 3, striking out a couple of guys, making a couple of guys look silly in the box, and the 4th didn't happen, right? The Harper home run, he hung a ball. Again, every pitcher does it. He hung it, and Harper took him deep, right? The Marte situation. Now, again, after the Harper home run, Manaea could have got the next batter or 2 out. He did not. And that led to the ball falling in front of Marte that should have been caught. And then, the floodgates were open. So, well, Junior, I mean, yeah, McNeil isn't a major league player. Yeah, but again, you're paying a guy $15 million to sit on the bench right now, and there's a pretty good chance you're trying to trade him. Again, the Mets are trying to get as much value from McNeil as possible. Look, we can be honest about that, right? Because if you're going to trade Jeff McNeil, you got to do your best to get the best possible package back or prospect back. Not saying it's going to be a top 20 prospect or anything like that, but maybe it'll be like, one of those, top 30 prospects that are, the 30th ranked prospect in the system, but it might be a live arm, somebody that throws hard, has a lot of good stuff, a guy that maybe they see that could be a reliever in a year or 2, or a guy that they think they can turn into a starter, or they see something in that pitcher. Stearns is methodical in that situation. If you look at a lot of his moves, while the season's going on and what guys he's bringing up, like Danny Young, Nunez, these are guys that the Mets, nobody really knew about these guys, right? These are guys that came out of nowhere, right? From other teams that they, one of the guys they signed in the offseason that nobody, people was like, oh, that happened? Okay. And you know what? Nunez is one of the guys that are going to be in the late in games now in our bullpen. So it's unfortunate, but you got to look at McNeil as 100% trade bait, right? Jose Iglesias can hold the fort down for whatever happens at the deadline, and then you bring up Luis Alano Acuna. Like that's the obvious way to go about it. If the deadline ends up being the deadline that Met fans might expect because of where the team is right now. So, and yeah, Ricardo, Marte's defense is a problem. But it wasn't Marte. Look, he was the culprit for this 6-run inning in the 4th. Absolutely. Committee, we talked about that. We're not going to do potential trades right now. It's too early, and you can't start making packages up because, again, it's hard. It's not easy to do that, and it's a situation. We just had one of our shows the other day where we talked about, it's too early to talk about this yet. Maybe at the end of June when we get into July, seeing where the Mets are, and then we can start talking about it, right? A little too early. Minor league report is kind of hard because we're doing a ton of work with the Mets. We have a ton of shows, so that's hard to do. But yeah, we're not going to do potential trades yet. Again, we've had a conversation about it. It makes no sense to do it right now. I understand, you might feel like it's ready, but you can't do it on June 8th. You just can't. Especially the Mets are 3.5 games out of a wild card. I know it's silly to say, but they are. You know what I'm saying? If they have a stretch where they go, 10 out of 13, 10 out of 14, guess what? They'll probably be right back in the mix. So again, Meets, look, I already said this, these London series and these world tours usually go in a split. Again, you got Jose Quintana, who's been really struggling. Hopefully he can turn it around a little bit. You got Taijuan Walker, who has not pitched well for the Phillies. One of the pitchers in their rotation that hasn't pitched well, and it's been swept under the rug because the rotation has been extremely good, and the Phillies have been the best team in baseball. So I can't tell you right now, if the Phillies come back to earth, which again they started the last couple of seasons very slowly. So a lot of people are like, oh well, they're starting hot now. Are they gonna slow down in the second half of the year? That's possible as well, right? But I'll tell you right now, if the Phillies come back, even though they got an 8.5 game lead on the Braves, so it's comfortable, but you never know, right? I'm not saying they're going to not make the playoffs. That'd be crazy. That'd be a terrible disaster. I mean, for them, not for us. But, I mean, we'd laugh. But, I think they're too good to, even if they find a way to get into a wild card spot, if they don't win the division somehow, some way, and they don't perform well in the second half, you're going to hear about Taijuan Walker. I told everybody about Taijuan Walker going to the Phillies, right? I thought he would be a better Met than a Philly. And honestly, he's not been good with the Phillies. He hasn't been, because I don't think he works. He's more of he is a ground ball pitcher, but when he gets that sinker up, he needs a bigger ballpark. It's just that simple. He relies on those deep fly balls that stay in the park. Them balls are flying out of Philadelphia. So again, regardless of what happened today, the Mets have another game tomorrow where they can split the series, and that's what most people probably expected, right? Because these series are very odd. It's an event, right? You saw the countdown on Fox, even though they didn't really talk about anything about the London series during the pregame. They were at Yankee Stadium with 2 Yankees and a Red Sox, which makes no sense, and talking about the Dodger and Yankee game more than the Mets and Phillies game when they're trying to promote a London series. So let's not get any further with that. But the fact is, these series are very odd. In the first third of the season, it's just odd, right? It's an event, right? It's a spectacle. But these games matter. So, for if the Mets win tomorrow, everything be like, oh, that's why a 2-game series is kind of stupid. I'd rather play a 3-game series. I think it makes more sense, but again, I don't make the schedule. So to finish up, Mets lose 7-2. The 4th inning was the capper, right? That was it. The Phillies didn't really do anything else. I think they had 3 more hits the entire game. So all their runs were in the 4th inning, 6 runs. Harper started with the solo home run. A couple of big runners got on with a walk and a hit, and then the Marte situation happened, and then it was a trickle down effect. Manaea couldn't get that one more out, and then he was out of the game in 3 2/3. 7 hits, 6 runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, and 2 home runs. So unfortunately, the Mets didn't do the job. They come out tomorrow. I will be doing a Mets in-game live tomorrow, 9:30. So the game starts at 10 a.m. East Coast time. So make sure you're here, hanging out, watching the game. I'll have the live audio, and I'll have myself as well. I'll have the score on the screen as well. So with that said, guys, Mets post-game show in the books. Mets lose 7-2 in London, game 1 of the London series. Again, 1 more game across the pond, and then the Mets have another off day and then head back home to play. I forgot who they play, but they head back home and play a series to get back into the groove of things of being back on a regular schedule. So I'll see you tomorrow, 9:30 for a somewhat pregame, and then we'll go into the baseball game for Mets Phillies, last game of the London series. Hopefully the Mets come out and get a victory here, come out and get the win, because they could have easily won today. They had many opportunities with runners on. Again, over 10 runners left on base, 6 in scoring position. Only 2 of the 8 came in to score. You're not going to win ball games like that, especially with a Phillies team that pitched well this year and the offense have been scoring runs. With that said, I'll see you tomorrow morning, 9:30 for Mets in-game live, Mets and Phillies London Series Game 2. I'll be with you and hanging out with you guys throughout the game. With that said, everybody have a good night. Have a good Saturday. Let's go, Mets, and I'll see you next time, guys. Have a great night.
To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go?